So remember in 2012 when we heard talks that Peter Jackson had shot The Hobbit, and was it the An Unexpected Journey in 48 HFP, right? He shot it in 48 frames a second, but like really, really just wanted to make it look like this massive cinematic movie. And generally what happened was audiences who saw it in that particular format, saw it as it was presented, really hated it because it felt like they had entered Uncanny Valley. That was the initial response to some of the test footage. I think shown, I forget where it was shown at, but it was shown somewhere, maybe CinemaCon or something. It left people really just kind of not feeling it, not really digging it. I heard it was better for when they had the actual theatrical release, but the Desolation of Smaug and the Battle of Five Armies didn't have that at all. At least if it did, it was never talked about. I don't recall it at all. No one I know went to go see it. And ever since then, 48 HFP has kind of been on the back burner of everything. Nobody wants to talk about it, right? We're not interested in 48 HFP. We're not interested in none of that stuff. We're interested in de-aging technology because that's where we find ourselves right now. Everything is de-aging. And speaking of de-aging and all that technology, I want to talk a bit about Gemini Man, because Gemini Man is why this conversation is important, because, and this is absolutely true, no movie theater in America will play Gemini Man as it was meant to be seen. But a few theater goers will get the full 120 frames per second experience. 120 frames per second shot in 4K 3D. Jeez. Look, to a lot of you out there, that probably means very little, right? It probably means very little. But to people out there who understand frame rate and understand all this stuff, that is just mind-bogglingly amazing. And it was done like that in order to facilitate the de-aging technology used on Junior, which is Will Smith's counterpart in Gemini Man. They wanted to make it look and make it feel like there is going to be, like these guys are fighting each other, like as real as humanly possible. And so right now, you're only going to be able to see it here in America at 120 frames per second, or 120 frames per second, 2K 3D. This is what it says here. You can go to these are all AMCs. I don't live anywhere near an AMC, so I'm screwed anyway, but you can see it in Miami, LA, Orlando, New Orleans, Denver, Chicago, New York, Frisco, Atlanta, another one in Chicago, Las Vegas, Baltimore, and Houston. Now, Lee did say this here. This is interesting. And this is why he did it. He says that Gemini Man in 120 FPS 2K 3D felt like the necessary avenue to make Junior, Smith's digital avatar, a soulful character who could also appear to beat the living crap out of a real actor in the film's many fight sequences. He also knew going into it that the format would not be accessible to many viewers because of location, time, or the sour taste left by previous HFR screenings. And again, that of course would probably be The Hobbit, because it's not a technology that gets talked about. It's not a technology that gets showcased. I was watching Joker the other night and I saw the ad for Tenet. And Tenet, they showed the preview for that, and they go, oh, screening in an IMAX 70 millimeter or special 35 millimeter screenings. And I was like, ooh, 35 millimeter screening? Or if it's anywhere near me, an actual traditional 70 millimeter IMAX print screen? Whew, yeah. Right. Now, I used to be a projectionist when I managed movie theaters. So I spent a lot of time working on 35 millimeter film and 35 millimeter film prints. I have an affinity. I have a love for that particular format, more so than a lot of other things. Now, I do appreciate digital. I do appreciate the technological advances with digital. I appreciate absolutely all of those things that come from it, simply because it is insane as to what you can do with it now, and also just the picture quality and the clarity and all of those things. But one of my favorite things was when I used to work at the theater that actually this channel's namesake is based on. When I worked at the Regency Academy 6 in LA, in Pasadena, my job on Friday nights, because we would show cult movies on Saturday nights, my job was to make sure that the 35 millimeter print of the cult movie that we were showing was perfect. So my job was to watch the movie. So imagine this, for about 6 months, I got to sit there every Friday night and watch one of my all-time favorite movies by myself in the theater, and I was paid. I'm talking Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Evil Dead 2, an original 1985 print of Back to the Future, A Hard Day's Night, Candyman, The Warriors, Child's Play, Addams Family. I mean, I watched so many movies that I was paid to watch, and I got to watch them all on 35 mil. My favorite was the original print for Back to the Future. And maybe a lot of you out there aren't going to appreciate that, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, that was amazing. That was so cool. I brought my friends over. I wasn't really supposed to, but I brought over people. I'm like, oh, let's watch this movie. And because we're all cinephiles, we live in LA, we want to work in film. We're all cinephiles. This to us is our geeking out, our nerding out on stuff. And so to be able to see movies in that kind of format is always going to be pretty cool. But I am also, again, very fascinated by the future of what it's going to be able to bring. 120 frames per second in 4K 3D. It sounds insane. And while it's not playable here in the United States, not in the 4K 3D, but if I lived anywhere near any of these cities, I would definitely make the trek to go and see it. And I'll tell you guys why. Back in 2007, I saw 300 in every possible available format. Living in San Diego at the time, they didn't have IMAX. So the nearest IMAX, the nearest true IMAX was in Irvine, which is 100 miles north. So my friend and I drove up and we watched it in IMAX there. And then later on that year, maybe like 2 months later, because IMAX was so popularized by 300, that's when they started building all of those fake IMAXs in your normal movie theater, right? They did that for Spider-Man 3 because Sony wanted to make sure that Spider-Man 3 was going to be playing in as many IMAX screens as humanly possible because of the size, scope, and scale of what Raimi had made. And so as a result of that, that's when a lot of the fake IMAXs went out there. And then the year later, when The Dark Knight came out, I made my trek back up to that same IMAX theater in order to watch The Dark Knight in true stadium seating IMAX experience. It was glorious, man. It was absolutely glorious. And I loved every second of it. And to me, that's like the experience I like to have. Knowing that I'm watching something on film, it has such a cool feeling. And I'm pretty sure people out there who want to see Gemini Man in this particular format, because they're going to have the same kind of visceral reaction to that I have to film. And so I feel bad that it's only playing in these 14 AMC theaters. I mean, I don't know why Paramount, who's already losing enough money anyway on basically everything, would put this out there. And I don't know. Maybe they're thinking that down the road, when the technology catches up with theaters, provided theaters still exist in that time frame, that people will be able to see it then, and then it will find its home then. But like, I just feel like this is an experimental thing that so many people aren't going to be able to enjoy. And the movie is apparently decent from what I hear. So like that could be good, but again, it's wasted. It's so wasted when they don't prep for this kind of thing. And that's unfortunate. But anyway, I just wanted to rant about Gemini Man and the whole thing with the frame rate and how they shot it, because it sounds really cool. It's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to experience it like Ang Lee wanted. Ang Lee is an extremely visual director, and not being able to see it in the way that he envisioned it, in the way that he shot it, does feel like it is a lesser experience. But I hope the movie is entertaining enough to warrant the ticket price. So I'll leave it to you. Your thoughts, your opinions, write them down below. Be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe, hit that bell, and let me know if you live anywhere near any of these cities, if you plan on seeing it. And then if you do see it, I definitely want to hear it. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day. Peace out.